Today I'd like to talk about three very cool and very rare brass instruments I have with me. And these are all various flavors of alto voice competition bugles in G, which were originally designed for drum corps use, specifically in Drum Corps International, the American Drum Corps Major League. Now, they are all essentially alto voice, middle voice bugles meant to be darker than a mellophone with a smaller bell, but to project more than a flugelhorn and not have the accuracy and issues of a French horn. And they all succeed at that in different ways, and we'll see why. So I'm going to talk about them, I'm going to play them, and basically, preserve them on the internet so that there's some record of what they sound like. So, let's dive right in. Here's the first one. This is a Meehaphone, or Meehaphone, built by Kanstul in 1987. These instruments are 2-valve bugles, which are one of the more unique kinds of bugle in drum corps. They have, they are alto voices, essentially an alto bugle, but they're not made the same way that other alto bugles like these two are, because they wanted something different. Basically, the Blue Devils Drum and Bugle Corps, one of the best DCI corps of all time, decided that they weren't happy with their mid voice, which was mellophones and French horns and flugelhorns, and they would switch them out and use various combinations of those, but they decided that they wanted to have one instrument. Just replace all the other ones with one instrument that could do everything well. And so, Jack Meehan, Meehan, worked with Wayne Downey, another Blue Devils staff, as well as Zig Kanstul, amazing legendary brass maker who made a lot of G bugles, to develop the Meehaphone, built by Kanstul with design input by the Blue Devils people. And, well, there's not a lot of information about this on the internet. There's a few on drum corps forums and stuff like that, but if you really want to find out exactly what it is, you really have to dig. The long and short of it is, well, it may at first seem like it's actually a unique bugle built from the ground up. It's not. It's a parts horn. It's essentially, according to Ken Norman, the late Ken Norman, a Olds BU-10 or Con 92L marching French horn bugle bell, just slapped on a small bore flugelhorn valve set and lead pipe. Basically, it's a field descant horn in G with 2 valves. And what the result of that is, it's really loud. It is really, really loud. It is known, it was notorious for being the loudest alto bugle ever created. And, if the goal was projection, it succeeded. You could hear it. I mean, the 1987, 88, and later shows that used these in the Blue Devils are on YouTube. You can watch and listen to them, and you can hear just how loud these things were. But they're pretty much gone today. There are a couple in drum corps related museums, and that's kind of it. There is a prototype 3-valve Meehaphone in F, which is around. And there are also modern sort of reproductions in F with 3 valves made by Andalusia. I would love to try one of those, actually. But as for the original Kanstul model MFL, not sure if you can see that. MFL is stamped on the bell. The Kanstul model MFL Meehaphone, apart from those couple in museums, those are the only ones that people know where they are. Now granted, there were not many made. Based on the size numbers of the Blue Devil's mid-voice section from footage and interviews and stuff that I've been able to track down, they had 14 of them. And I would guess they probably didn't make any more than that, apart from the prototypes. So, likely, there were only 14 ever made. And they never, ever, 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 ever show up for sale. They just don't. The result of there being no Meehaphones on the market at all, ever, is that, apart from those 1987 to 1991 Blue Devil shows on YouTube, which is when those Meehaphones were used, there are no audio or video examples of the Meehaphone on the internet at all. So there is nothing on the internet to tell you what it sounds like. Until now! That's what we're here for. This is my Meehaphone, previously owned by Ken Norman. Now this is not the original Downey BD custom Warburton mouthpiece that was made for the section. This is a random cylindrical shank Burbank F mouthpiece that it came with. No idea what it's for, but it works. Now, you may have noticed it only has 2 valves. That's because this was made before 3 valves were legalized in DCI. It was only 2 for a long time. What this means is it's not fully chromatic for a lot of its range, which makes it not super useful, if I'm honest. Now, once you get above a certain pitch, it is fully chromatic, because you only need 2 valves once you get high enough in the partials. And this instrument, that note where everything above it is chromatic, is concert E4. Everything above that, you only need the 2 valves, you can play chromatically. But below it, there are gaps. There are big gaps. For example, I'm going to play a chromatic scale starting on the G above that E4, G4, and going down, and you can hear for yourself where the gaps are. So there's a lot. It's unfortunate, but that's how it is. Now, there is this kicker, which is on the second valve slide and means actually all the way out-ish is in tune, and then you push it in for the one note on the 7th partial that's really flat with only 2 valves. So it's totally fine above E4. But the problem is, the Meehaphone was notorious for not really being usable above the staff. I don't know if that's because of the bell construction being too big for the length or what, but it was notoriously difficult to center above the staff. Now, I have possibly too much experience playing things like the Mellophonium and other not so great instruments in terms of their design, like the Getzen Frumpet, which is awful. So it's, for me, it's manageable, but yeah, it's a challenge for sure. So basically that means if your top note that's really solid is the written G at the top of the staff, which is concert D5, and the lowest note of your fully chromatic range is E4, you kind of only have less than an octave of good fully chromatic range, which is not great. But despite that, It's a very cool instrument. It has a very cool sound, and yes, it is very loud. So, without further ado, let me play some. So, it's cool. I think it's cool. It sounds so much like my Couesnon flugelhorn at soft dynamics, and then when you push it, it just lights up like a Christmas tree. Super bright, super like lasery, trumpety kind of sound. Very cool. It is a challenge to play up there. It is. But it's doable if you brute force it pretty much. So that's the Meehaphone. It's cool. Now, let's compare that to something pretty different. This is a Dynasty III Alto Bugle in G from the 1970s. But it has 3 valves. How can that be? DCI didn't legalize 3 valves for many, many years. Why does it have 3? The answer is because this particular instrument, as all the Dynasty III line at the time was, designed and sold in the European drum corps market, where 3 valves were legal. European and Canadian, for that matter. This particular one, as were a lot of the Dynasty III instruments at the time, was made by Wilson in Switzerland. And it's a pretty awesome instrument. It is chrome-plated, which is common in some... It's fairly common finish for G bugles. And it is basically a big flugelhorn in G. It plays like it, it sounds like it, doesn't really look like it, but that's the only thing. It's awesome. Now, I have right now in it my Dynasty II tenor horn mouthpiece, and it really likes tenor horn mouthpieces. It seems like that was what it was designed for. Now, if anyone happens to see this video who is old enough to have marched 2-valve G bugles and happened to march the 2-valve version of this, which was in DCI, the Dynasty II, please let me know what mouthpieces they used, because it really seems like this is meant for a big, deep cup tenor horn like mouthpiece. So this is what it sounds like. love it so much. It's so nice and velvety and great. Now, it does push, you know, it's not like it's just soft and mellow and nice all the way. It is a, you know, drum corps bugle after all, so it has to project, and it does. And I think that when it projects, when you push it, it gets kind of a horn-like sound rather than a trumpet-like sound, like so. A couple misnotes there because I'm still not super familiar with G, but you get the idea. It has a nice, like, dark but powerful horn-like quality to it when you push it. I think, at least behind the bell it does. What does it sound like on the other side of the bell? You'll have to tell me. I really love that. Now, just as a comparison, I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to play my flugelhorn, just so you can hear how related the sounds are, really. They're pretty close, at least from my side of the bell. Also, both of those instruments are just so much fun to play. It's such a nice velvety sound to be rewarded with. Now, we have one more G bugle left to talk about today. This is my most recent Alto Bugle acquisition, as if that's a normal thing to say. It is a Kanstul KAH-175 early pattern Alto Bugle in G. Now this is also has 3 valves like the Dynasty, but is not from the 70s. This was made much later, after the Meehaphone, in the 90s, the early 90s. And it is obviously a much more modern instrument. The valves are fantastic. They're actually the best valves of any brass instrument I own, and I own a few. It's great. It's comfortable to hold. It's super light and balanced. It has a kicker on the first slide. It's just has all the modern amenities that you want, with the addition of it looks cool. And actually, it doesn't just look cool, it looks a lot like the King 1120 marching mellophone, which I think, if I remember right, that I'm not making this up completely, but I think I read that this was what the design of the King 1120 mellophone was based on. It's basically the same. Like, if you look at that instrument, the lead pipe is a little longer to make it an F, but everything, and the bell is bigger, obviously, because it's a mellophone, but everything else is kind of the same. It even has this very distinctive third valve wrap for the slide. I don't know. I don't remember if that's true or not, but I somehow have that in my brain that that's a thing. So maybe it's true, maybe it's not. If someone can confirm, please let me know. In any case, this instrument, I got it recently, and I'm still unsure what to do with it. Because, take this out real quick, if I play it with the same tenor horn mouthpiece that I played in the Dynasty 3 valve G Alto Bugle, it is horrendously flat. like like very nearly a half step flat with the tuning slide all the way in. Except the low register, which is sharp. That's a big difference. It's not a perfect instrument. None of these are. Except for the Dynasty. The Dynasty's pretty close. But even that, when I have recorded it in recording sessions before the Dynasty, and even when you play it, you don't notice any intonation things. Yeah, there's a lot. When you have to record tracks with it, you find all of the little notes that are way out. This is obvious. This is so out that it's obvious in the low register. It's just so much sharper than everything else, and you have to force it down. Anyway, that's a minor issue compared to the whole horn being almost a whole half step flat. That was a weird way to say it, but you get what I mean. It's a lot. And I have a different tenor horn mouthpiece. I have a Kelly, which is not quite as big and deep as this, and it's still just unusably flat. Which is a shame because it sounds really nice with this tenor horn mouthpiece. It's like even smoother than the Dynasty or my flugelhorn. It's so sweet. But it's flat. It's super flat. So what do you use with it? Well, it was designed to use the venerable Benge Mello 6 Meehaphone mouthpiece. Now, is this a good mouthpiece? Yeah, it's fine. But, well, just listen. It's very bright. It's very bright. It just is. It's a lot. Is it fun? Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And it actually does sound pretty different from Meehaphone. But where am I going to use this sound? You know, like, what is the use for this? I mean, I can come up with a use for it, I assume, hopefully, but it's not a big flugelhorn sound, not at all. It's like a more focused, direct Meehaphone sound, which makes sense, because, look at it. So that's kind of a bummer, but I think there is a mouthpiece out there that can work for this. Maybe a German flugelhorn mouthpiece, which has a trumpet shank, or a shallower alto horn mouthpiece, something. And I'm still kind of on a safari for that. But in the meantime, let's go on a mini safari. I have brought two different Meehaphone mouthpieces that I have yet to try on this. So we're going to experiment with this together. First up, the Hammond 5MP. This is what I use on my Yamaha marching Meehaphone. It is the standard, well, the 6MP is most of the standard, but Hammond Meehaphone mouthpieces are the standard for marching Meelaphones in DCI and everywhere else because they're the best. The especially compared to a Mello 6, which is a fine mouthpiece, but the Hammond is a cut above. So let's see how the Hammond 5MP does in the Kanstul. Sure about that, actually. I'm gonna go back to the Mello 6. Hold on. Yeah, the Mello 6 is actually a better mouthpiece on this. The Hammond is it's really fuzzy, and like the sound is really fuzzy, and that's not a good thing. Like it sounds very unfocused. And it's actually just a little harder to play. Interesting. So, amazing on the Yamaha YMP201M marching mellophone. Not so good on this Kanstul. Now, last option. This I just got because I was curious about it, because it showed up on eBay for nothing, so why not? This is a CKB Mello 6. Now, CKB mouthpieces are not super common for any instrument, mostly trumpet mouthpieces. I had no idea they even made a mellophone mouthpiece until this showed up on eBay. So naturally I had to buy it, because it cost almost nothing, and why would you try it? So let's try it on this. Ooh, I think I might like that better than the Benge. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is it. This is the mouthpiece for this instrument. This is, well, it's not, but for now. I am very pleasantly surprised by this. The Mello 6 is good, but this is, at least from my side of the bell and feel and all that, this is even better. It's very, feels like it's a really nice match. Versus the Benge. Like, the Benge is cool, it's bright, and it's fun, and it screams, but this is a little more refined, I think. Okay, I'm getting carried away, but yeah, this is cool. However, as cool as that is, it's still not a big flugelhorn sound. It's not. It's much too bright. I don't even know what to classify it as. It's not really a mellophone, but it's closer to that than anything else, I think. It's an interesting sound, it is, but it's not what I want from an alto bugle necessarily, unless I just decide to use the Kanstul for different things as the Dynasty and keep both, which was not my original plan, I'll be honest. Plan was to keep one, but this just might be how it is, which I wouldn't be super mad at. Okay, you've heard all of these individually. Now let's play them back to back to back, just so that you can hear a general idea of how they sound similar, how they sound different. Just short, quick, compare all of them. Lightning round. Let's go. Meehaphone first. And just for comparison's sake, Couesnon flugelhorn. So, those are 3 very cool and very rare alto competition bugles in G. What will I do with them? I mean, I've already used the Dynasty, because I've had this one the longest, in recording sessions, real sessions. And I could definitely see myself using the Kanstul. The Meehaphone, well, it only has 2 valves, so probably not. But, we'll see. Regardless, I am so happy that I have the chance to not only own these, but play them and demonstrate them and preserve them in a way that hasn't been really done before. Which one was your favorite? Which one do you like the best? Which one do you think is the most useful? And what's your ideal alto bugle / G flugelhorn thing? Let me know. See you next time.